In the quiet town of Adams, Tennessee, history lives in whispers, and some of those whispers never stopped. For over 200 years, locals here have told the same story. A story about a family cursed, a voice from nowhere, and a witch that never left. This is the legend and the evidence of the Bell Witch. The year was 1817 to John Bell, a respected farmer and father of 9, purchased land along the Red River in northern Tennessee at 1801. Life was peaceful. But within a year, something began to change inside their farmhouse. It started small. Scratching sounds behind the walls, footsteps on wooden floors, faint tapping on the windows at night. The family blamed rats, the wind, maybe a prank, until one night, John Bell's daughter, Betsy, woke up screaming. She said something had pulled the covers off her bed and slapped her face. An open hand, from nowhere. Over the following weeks, the activity grew. Voices began to speak at a woman's voice, clear and mocking at first. It whispered, then it laughed, then it called them by name. The Bell family was being haunted, not by a ghost, but by something that spoke, argued, and sang hymns. Neighbors began to visit the Bell home out of curiosity. Each of them reported the same thing. A disembodied voice that answered questions no one else could know. It called itself Kate. Sometimes Old Kate Bats. Bats was the name of a local woman who had once accused John Bell of cheating her in a land deal. When she fell ill, townsfolk claimed she cursed him and said she would haunt him and his descendants. When the voice appeared, it claimed to be her spirit. But there was one problem. Kate Bats was still alive. The entity that spoke to the Bells wasn't her at least. Not anymore. The story spread across Tennessee like wildfire. Pastors, soldiers, even politicians came to see for themselves. One of them was General Andrew Jackson, later to become the 7th President of the United States. In his diary, Jackson wrote about visiting the Bell farm with a group of men. Their wagon suddenly stopped on the road near the property. The wheels refused to turn. The horses froze, trembling, and from the darkness came a voice, "You may go no further tonight." Jackson's men panicked. Some fled. Jackson reportedly said, "By the eternal, boys, I'd rather fight the British again than the Bell Witch." The next morning, the wheels turned freely. By 1820, the haunting had focused entirely on one person. John Bell himself. He suffered violent seizures, paralysis, and confusion. The voice mocked him, calling him Old Jack, promising that soon he would die. On December 20th, 1820, John Bell was found unconscious in bed. Beside him was a small vial of black liquid. When the family asked what it was, the voice said clearly, "I gave Old Jack a big dose of that last night, which fixed him." When the substance was tested, it killed a cat instantly. John Bell was buried 2 days later. During the funeral, mourners reported hearing the witch's laughter echoing through the trees. The haunting should have ended there, but it didn't. According to records, the entity told the Bells it would return in 7 years. In 1828, it did. This time, it came to John Bell Jr. He described long nights of conversation with the voice. Calm, intelligent, and prophetic. It spoke about the origins of life, the nature of the universe, and even the future of mankind. Then it promised to return again 107 years later, in 1935, and no one can prove it did. But descendants of the Bell family claim strange events occurred that year. Flickering lights, voices in the house, the sound of a woman laughing when no one was there. At a short walk from the original Bell property lies a limestone cave, now known as the Bell Witch Cave. Locals say that's where the spirit hid during the day in the late 1800s. A group of children exploring the cave claimed one of them became stuck in a narrow tunnel. Panic spread until a soft woman's voice said, "I'll help you out." Moments later, the boy slid free, as if pulled by invisible hands. Today, tourists still visit the cave. Some report hearing whispers inside. Others claim to feel cold fingers brush their arms in the dark, and sometimes, when they play back recordings, They hear the faint ring of a bell. In 1998, a group of researchers conducted a sound study inside the Bell Witch Cave using subsonic microphones. They captured low-frequency vibrations resembling a human voice, though no one spoke at the time. When the recording was analyzed, the waveform spelled out 3 syllables, "Katias." The rest was lost in static. Another investigation in 2006 used electromagnetic sensors. Readings spiked in random bursts, each time near a small brass bell hanging in the museum's display case. The same bell said to have belonged to the Bell family. Locals claim it sometimes rings on its own. Over the centuries, theories about the Bell Witch have multiplied. Some believe it was a poltergeist, a manifestation of repressed anger or fear within the Bell family. Others say it was an elemental spirit tied to the land itself, awakened by disturbance or blood spilled on sacred ground. Skeptics argue it was mass hysteria, a community feeding its own superstition. But none can explain how so many witnesses, farmers, soldiers, ministers, even a future president, heard the same voice. The Bell Witch remains unique in American history. It is the only haunting ever recorded in official documents as a cause of death on John Bell's death certificate. The phrase reads simply, "Death by witchcraft." 2 centuries later, the Bell Witch still echoes through the Red River Valley. Visitors to the site describe sudden temperature drops, the smell of sulfur, and faint whispers calling their names. Some leave gifts, small silver bells tied with black ribbon, hoping to appease whatever lingers there. 1 Local historian, Clara Hines, recorded a statement in 1973. She said, "My grandmother told me the witch was never evil. She was justice. John Bell did something dark, and she came to make it right. But justice never leaves. It waits." Today, the Bell Witch Cave remains one of Tennessee's most visited haunted locations. Guides often warn guests not to speak her name too loudly inside. Some who do claim to hear a response, a whisper, a faint ring, a voice that says, "I never left." 200 years have passed since the Bell Witch first spoke, and still, her legend survives. Not as a fairy tale, not as a ghost story, but as America's first documented haunting. Maybe it was hysteria. Maybe it was real. Or maybe, somewhere beneath the soil of Adams, Tennessee, something ancient still listens, and when the wind moves just right, it rings.